Hello, hello, hello. Let's turn that down a little bit. How is everybody tonight? I'm Orlando, and this is Late Night Right. So, for the moment, I do not know where Kaz is, but I left her the link so she can pop in anytime she's available. So, in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'll just simply bring up the script and we'll go from there. Alrighty. There we go. Just have to move this over a little bit so I can see what I'm working on. Okay, there we go. Alrighty. You'll see where my cursor is flashing here. Um, the way I wrote it last weekend, it was more like you would see in prose, like in a book. So now I made it into a solid action, which is, after Michael is talking about, his mum being old, and it's like spastic Alzheimer's. He then near tears, he looks away, and then he continues talking, saying, "Or some paranoid delusion." So what I did after that is everything else remained the same. It was just that one particular piece. It was too much like you would it would be something you would read in a book, not a proper action line. So that is how I laid that out. Alrighty. And as you know, I got my notes, got my outline, so I know where I'm going from here. So we're going to still be inside. Do, do, do. Let's see. Okay, we're going to have the tech floor. And he'll be in a washroom. It's daytime. And what we're doing is do 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 do. And this is going to be a very short scene, just simply because there's only one thing he's in there for. Nope, 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 nope. Alrighty, so instead of Michael glances around at wall camera, we'll just say Michael glances around, and then we'll have a wall camera. Okay, so we have a wall camera light that flashes. Or we can just have it that it's on. Even better. Okay, so he's gonna kind of nods to himself while he turns on the water. And then he's gonna scrub his face. Okay, and he has the tiniest of smiles. Now, how do I want to run this? Okay. Okay, so we're going to show that the camera light is on, which means it's still on. So what Michael does is he glances in the mirror and lets the tears flow. This time. And he makes a point of bucking up, you know? Alright, so he's going to grab a paper towel. Okay, so we're going to have him literally drying his face and hands while he's on his way out of the washroom. And that literally finishes that scene. Okay. Now, what we had here in the actual outline is that he builds in hidden loopholes for low frequencies, very well hidden in plain sight. Or is it an online electronic system destroyer, AI killer virus, or EMP virus? Can we make it targeted? Okay, so Michael gets the idea and quickly starts to sketch a schematic. Alrighty. Okay, we'll put it in Michael's area. Alright. So, he's going to sit at his work table and he's going to glance to the mass of wires and connectors that cover most of one wall. Okay. So, obviously, he's at the work table. He glances at the massive connectors and all of the good stuff. But as he studies them, this would be a headshot because it's his face and how his facial features change is what we want to make the most prominent thing here. Which means the next shot is going to be half shot. But it'll be half of his body because he's sitting at his work table. And draw? No. Okay. So what he's gonna do is we're not gonna see physically what he is doing, what exactly he's drawing, at least not yet. Because the whole point of this is for this thing to be secret. That nobody else knows what it is he's planning and how he's doing it. And that's in that by itself, that is where his safety lies. Is because nobody else, there is no schematic, there is no plan. He's doing all of this from memory, from what he had done in his parents' place. Alrighty. So that is literally the end of the scene. Because we're just going to see him going. I mean, we could have one of the other guys that works there, you know, like peek around the corner to see what he's up to. But then that would just lead off into a different, almost like a red herring, because it would be near impossible to say whether or not that person just peeked for the sake of peeking, or did that person peek because they're keeping tabs for the boss, right? So, I mean, we could and leave that as an open-ended thing, but at this point, it would be, I don't know. I'm guessing this is going to be one of those things Kaz and I will talk about. There we go. That's our note for the rewrite. Should another peek around the corner to see what Michael is doing. Okay, that's cool. We'll leave it for that for now. Because by then, you never know. By then we might have an actual set of plans. You know, schematics, blueprints, whatever you want to call them, on how this is all laid out. Because we're going to see, we're going to see right away with Andrew is going to be showing Sean around to a lot of the stuff. And, well, Sean has already seen the computer room and how that's all set up. Now, that's the same thing, pretty much, that Michael is going to be drawing here, and except that Michael is doing it at a larger scale of what he's doing right now. So he has to expand it out exponentially for depending on what his desire is for the usage of it. So for now, we go off to the complex. Okay. Okay. We can do this two ways. We can show Olivia, because she did mention mending clothing. So she could be taking Matthew and Logan around while she's going to get stuff to fix their clothes with. And we do want her to check back from Michael, see if anything is there from Michael. The message has already been crafted and sent. But Andrew would be showing Sean how the greenhouse works. The whole greenhouse is self-sufficient, right? So one process leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, right? Like your fish tank is going to fertilize the food, and that water is going to come back down into the fish tank and keep processing around with that, obviously added water for evaporation. But that works a lot like same as your toilet tank works. You just put a float in there and it can only fill up to a certain point, and that's it. Yeah, we got the solar magnification, strategic gutters, all that good stuff. Alrighty, so this is what we're gonna put in today. So I'll start with Olivia. Taking the boys into a room that's, sewing machine. It's got, cloth. It's got wool. It's got threads, patterns, all kinds of stuff that you would use to be making clothing with, or fixing just about anything. Alrighty. So what we're talking about is greenhouse basement. And let's just name it a sewing room. Be done with it. Alrighty. And again, we're going to have automatic lights here. So as soon as she walks in, the lights turn on. Okay, so Olivia... Okay, Matthew thinks it's creepy. Logan grins and thinks, says, I think it's so cool. And Olivia says, the room or lights? And Logan says, both. Matthew laughs. Let's give Matthew here. How about all of it? Geez, you can tell I haven't been typing in a while. Olivia turns to the bolts of material along one wall. Okay. And she says, okay, what colors? Or do you just want denim patches? And Matthew says it doesn't much matter. Logan says, well, what's denim? Okay, so okay, Matthew thinks it doesn't much matter what color patches. But Logan doesn't know what denim is, so he's asking, what's denim? Right? And Matthew says, your jeans. Stupid. And Olivia just, well, for that, you're sewing your own patches. Logan laughs gleefully. And the reason Logan is so gleeful about it is because he's had the same thing happen to him. Right? Because he was working with Olivia and Andrew in the garden a lot. Right? He would cut their grass, stuff like this. But, you know, it comes down to basically manners. Maybe, well, if you're going to use that kind of language, you're going to get twice as much work. So Logan knows what Matthew's in for because now Olivia is going to teach Matthew how to actually do it. And she's not going to just give him the stuff and say here. No, it's going to be completely. She's going to teach him how to sew these patches on here so it looks clean and finished. And they're not going to come off right away. And okay, that's going to be it there because we don't need to see them doing the actual sewing. Although it might not hurt. Okay. Okay, so now we're in the actual greenhouse itself. And I guess a lot will depend on where we are, whether or not it's going to be bright and sunny, or maybe it's raining, could be cloudy. You know, anything goes. But I think just for the idea of being able to make sure that that Sean can see what Andrew is pointing out to him, it should probably be a bright day. Because that way, if they're in behind stuff and this and that, you'll still be able to see what it is you've got going. You just won't be able to, rather than it being in thick shadows, it'll be easier to see because of the light. Okay. Alrighty. So we're going to have Sean squint at the bright light as him and Andrew rise on the steel panel. Alrighty. So Sean said, "Glad you showed me how to lift this from the inside." Because if you recall, when we were back, when they had first come down on this panel, and then the panel automatically hydraulically lifted again, he was a little bit concerned about that, like, ooh, how are we going to get out? Right? Um, okay, Andrew chuckles. Thought you were trapped, did you? Sean is, well, happily, it turned out well. Okay, so the lift stops level with the ground. Andrew and Sean get off. Alrighty. So Andrew gestures Sean toward the corner of the greenhouse, and this is after the lift is stopped level with the ground. And Believe it or not, that finishes off another page of the outline. So, on to the next one. Alrighty. Now, I wonder, because this is almost all going to be functioning through, pardon me, through rainwater. But it could also use pump if necessary. Oh, okay. Well, I'll just say the north wall. Huge water tanks. Line the north wall. Okay, so we've got huge water tanks lining the north wall. And on those tanks, you have a spider web of hoses and wiring that runs off of them. Some of them are going to be in series, so you'll have some of the tanks that are connected together, and the hoses would just be coming off of that one set to go to a specific place in the greenhouse, and then others would be single, like this one runs to there, this one runs to there, this one, you know, that type of thing. So it'll be for watering all the plants that are in the greenhouse, right? But we have a little specific thing here we want to alrighty. There we go. So Andrew shows John the tubing. Oops, 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 oops. Come back up here. So you can tell I have been doing some writing in book form, because the ing is not something that you use in screenwriting. So the tubing that runs from the tank to the top row of plants. And Andrew flicks the switch. Let's just do this. Now, we already know that the top row basically has drip tape. Because we saw that with Olivia and Andrew way back when he first got this part, the watering part, set up inside the greenhouse. We already saw that, so we know what's up there. So Sean doesn't have to go up there, right? But what he's gonna see is the water dripping from one specific, like from the row. We're gonna zoom in on one specific plant, and we're gonna see that the excess water from that plant is dripping down to the next plant, and down and down, that type of thing, right? But in the meantime, there we go. That's handy. Is it just for the top row? And let's look there. Okay, water just starts to drip out of the top plant directly onto the plant pot below. Let's make it a grin instead of... Gee. Sean's grin is slow, rather than a smile, because a smile could mean anything, but a grin means he's really appreciating it. How that works. Down in the fish tanks. Alright, just as Sean says. So it all ends up, Andrew says, down in the fish tanks. And that water comes back up, minus the chunks, and fertilizes. Okay, Sean says, man, that is slick. And Andrew says, that's what Olivia wanted. So we figured out how to make it work. He says, we, as in Michael. And he says, mostly. Yeah. So mostly, it was Andrew and Michael that did it. But without the challenge, we'd have never done it. Because I wouldn't have known it was needed. Alrighty. So, I mean, we can take them on down into yeah. Okay, so we're gonna be back down into the basement. Right hallway. Okay, so off the left, Andrew and Sean take the right. Take the right. Yeah. And walk along. Yes, put a comma there. Alrighty. Okay, so you got fish tanks, you got utilities, you've got your filtering stations, you've got well, spare parts. Yeah. And Sean says, well, can't live without that. And Andrew's like, no, indeed. And I wonder. Okay, let's put the spare parts room up here. Okay. So Andrew smiles. He opens the door, and gestures on inside as the lights come on. Okay. They all do that, meaning the lights. Andrew says, yep. Okay. So Sean is going to be looking at... He moves in closer to look at the series of water filters. Okay. Rock, sand, gems, copper. Okay, so Sean gets down and studies a jar on the side of the cistern. And Sean says, this looks like a magnet. Andrew says, hey, nothing better to draw metal. There we go. Nothing better to draw out metal. Alrighty. So Andrew laughs and pats Sean's shoulder as he gets up and says, "I got all the fixins in the parts room." And Sean is like, "I bet." They laugh on their way out. Okay, so from here is where we want to start laying in the plans on how they're going to actually find out where Michael is. Now, that's going to be that's going to need a lot of conversation between me and Kaz as we lay that out and how to plan that, how to set that up, as well as we're going to need Olivia and Sean on the computer, and or Matthew, right? Um, because on this one, Sean is going to put in a message that I think we should do that. Have a second message go through so that Michael knows that it is Sean for sure, plus the fact that it's asking a specific question. Um, and I'm gonna use game terminology, so it'll come down to, your location, specs, um, you know, where what is your ooh, I know the word I want. I just can't think of it at the second. That's okay. I'm sure I will think about it when I'm not writing it, or just when I'm finished here. It's probably when I'll think, oh, that was the word. That's the term I need. And that'll be one of those things that is just going to be more to do with hoping. Oh, coordinates. There you go. Because that is literally what they need. If by some chance they can get coordinates, or some type, some kind of landmark, something that will tell Sean where they actually are. Where he is, where Michael is. And this is the thing that'll start the plan moving. But there'll also be pings. Like we'll have, I don't know, maybe we'll have Matthew on that. Because yeah, that would work out really good to have Matthew do that, because as we wrote in the outline, Matthew will be doing exactly that. Hunting for pings and stuff like that. In the last part, before everything, before we get to the big final scene. So that's how that one is going to work that way. And we'll just have to just set it up so that we have a lot of stuff already set up in the script as we go along, little details, so it's not surprising that Sean and Matthew can both jump in and help, because we've already seen that they have the tech knowledge. All they need really is to be told what it is they're looking for and how this new system works. So, don't go to any of these regular sites. This is direct through, right? That'd be the main thing that Sean and Matthew are going to have to get used to and make use of once it comes to, getting Michael out of there, or so they think they're getting Michael out of there, but instead they stayed to make sure Michael can finish the job. Because in their mind, it's a worthy job. Because both Matthew was old enough, and Sean obviously is old enough too, to definitely remember what, everyday free life was, right? And that'll be the thing that everybody is wanting to get back to, is the availability to move freely as they used to. What suited this world forever, right? That's always been the best way to work things out. Now, okay, so I'm done with the script for right now. That'll do. That'll do. And so, what we have now is just... Obviously, Kaz couldn't make it, so, there'll be none of that kind of discussion like we like to do, beginning and end. What we're doing from this point on now is where we dig into the literal plan, and then we're gonna be seeing that Logan is left behind to stay with Andrew and Olivia, which of course will allow Sean and Matthew to move a lot faster, and they will have a good idea of where it is they're going. But I am toying with the idea of a Faraday cage. And so that Sean and Matthew will have a cell phone. And I'm guessing, Andrew or Olivia, one of the two, could just say, hang on a second, you need one of these? This is a burner phone. It has no connection to anything. Stuff like that. And they'll get them set up before they leave. But those are things that I just realized they're gonna have to have, and we're gonna have to see them pack them in their backpacks, right? So that'll work out great that way. So that'll be some of the stuff we'll get set up and have all in place, ready to go for when next weekend, when we're doing our writing, we'll be able to set that plan into motion and make it an actual plan. So we're gonna have to have the pings. We're gonna see if we're gonna have Sean try to get a hold of Tanya, and of course there'll be, Mom's not answering back. Have one of the boys do it, or Sean could do it. Either way, doesn't matter who's doing it. The fact is, where's Mom? Right? So, I mean, their first idea is going to be, oh, well, maybe she worked an extra shift or something. But that'll be one of those things that Olivia and Logan continue to check on. While, Sean and Matthew are away going to save Mike. We'll have that in there. There we go. We'll have Logan message his mom, and there will be no return on that message. So this is going to be one of those things that they're going to be concerned about while Logan is there. Even though they're doing other stuff, there's still going to be that, I wonder where mom is. Like, I really wonder where mom is, right? Especially after maybe the drones come through and it's scary stuff, and as Logan is like really wanting mom. Well, and Olivia as well. Come on, let's go check. You know, in an effort to make him feel better, right? So that might be a good way to do that. I think that'll work nice. Almost, almost more like what a grandma or an auntie would do, right? That kind of deal. But anyway, on that note, that'll be some good fun work for next weekend and probably the weekend after. By the looks of it, it's gonna take a little while. But I hope anybody watching is having fun. I hope you enjoy all the tricks and, well, just basically just the standard. This is how you write a screenplay. This is how you build up your ideas and throw and fill it out from your outline. So, if you're liking this stuff, be sure to throw a thumbs up. We'd be happy to see that for sure. And hey, come on, leave me some messages. I'd be really happy to help anybody who's got difficulties writing a story. And on that note, this is Orlando saying, see y'all